What's up, Internet? My name is Josh. I am the fourth player, and this is actually a post commentary. I just recorded this session, and when I finished, I realized that I hadn't actually started my microphone running. So I lost, all 45 minutes of progress, but that's alright. No. I want to discuss a couple things in this video. Most notably, what I want to do with this channel, where I want to see this channel go, and what you guys can expect. Because I think it's fair to, just lay out some expectations for you guys. As you can see, we just spoke to Merchant Hag Militia. She's one of the very, very first, probably the first merchant you'll meet in this game, depending on which way you go. Sell some very basic items, as well as a very important item, which you just saw me buy back there. That's the blacksmith's key. You need that to open Leningrass's shop. He's the blacksmith back in Majula. I'll probably show that in the next video. Yeah, completely messed that up. Speedrun strats. And in here you have an Estus flash shard and the small white sign soapstone. One of those items is more important than the other. I'll let you figure out. Let you decide for yourself which one is which. Oh, and right here, go ahead and buy a couple of firebombs. And I said in the last video this shortcut had been patched out. I was mistaken. It's not patched out. It's the spot to do it is apparently changed, or I had just started doing it wrong. Yeah, just go ahead and toss a fireball at that wall at kind of a downward angle, and there you go. Punch a hole right through it. Now out here, up into the well, if you go to the branch on the right, there's a ladder. And if you go up that ladder, you will meet a boss that we'll fight later in this video called the Pursuer. He's the only boss in the game that actually comes to you. You can actually fight him a total of 2 times in this game, depending on what you do. He's completely optional, but he's quite possibly my favorite boss in the game. So anyway, where do I want to see this channel? What do I want to see this channel? And I apologize, I'm saying a lot. Again, until I get used to doing commentary, until I kind of grow into this whole thing. My speaking skills will need some practice. In here, go ahead and watch out for that boulder. That's, as far as I know, it's always an instant kill, but it only shows up once, thankfully. Go up here and talk to Kale the cartographer, exhaust all of his dialogue, and get the key to the mansion back in Majula. And if you actually exhaust his dialogue, he will, after you kill the first boss and after you take care of a small problem that he has in his mansion, he will actually come back to Majula and just offer a little bit more lore. But anyway, where do I want to see this channel go? What do I want to do with it? Right now this is more just, it's an opportunity for me to share what I love doing. I love playing video games. I love, discussing video games. I love playing video games with other people. And I've always enjoyed watching Let's Plays. So I figured, why not do some of my own, help contribute. So that's mostly what it's gonna be. Just a forum for me, or well, not necessarily a forum, but a way for me to. Good job. I'm good at Dark Souls, but a way to share the medium that I love with other people, and especially games like Dark Souls that I really think maybe not necessarily underexposed, but underappreciated. And I realize it's kind of a small market that Dark Souls appeals to. Masochists mostly. But you know, it's a I wanna you know, get these games out there. That guy's having a bad day. He's gonna wake up with a hell of a headache. That's all I'm saying. But you know, I want to get these, you know, share the games I love with people I've never met, basically. And as far as what you guys can expect, it's gonna be kind of, you know, I think I'm gonna be sticking, you know, one game at a time. Probably, you know, I know some YouTubers, I've seen them run 2 or 3 Let's Plays at a time, and I have no idea how they do it. They're crazy. They're crazy people. But it'll probably be, you know, 1 video a day for now, since I'm not terribly busy. But it'll I can't really say, you know, what games are gonna show up on my channel. It'll probably just be things I pull off the shelf that I feel like playing, you know, depending on the day. As it stands right now, all I've got is I have a PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. I don't have a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One yet. May not for a conceivable future. You can't. PlayStation 4 videos will certainly turn up on my channel eventually. And I apologize if I sound like I'm rambling. I don't have a script. I really should write myself a script before I do these things, but I didn't expect to have to do post commentary. You know, and where I'd like to see this channel go, I'd like, yeah, I'd like some growth. Okay, now be careful with this. Sorry, I'm gonna change subjects here for a moment. Be careful with this chest. There's a nasty surprise waiting inside, and if it's white, you want to block, and if it's green, you want to roll away. I believe this one's green, so roll away. I'm not sure if you get poisoned or if you get toxic from that, because I've never actually gotten caught by one of those. That's actually the first time I've ever see that particular chest be a poison cloud. Normally it's an arrow trap. Go over here and knock on this door, and these polite gentlemen will go ahead and open it up for you. And there's a fairly decent treasure inside there for early game, at least. And again, I apologize for the shoddy audio quality. It's not a very good headset. But on the bright side, today I ordered a brand new microphone as well as a pop filter, so you won't have to listen to my annoying pops for very much longer. Probably the next 4 or 5 videos, I'll be using this mic, but I should have my new microphone within a week. Run over here and talk to Mr. Pate. Hello, Pate.
Hello there. Well.
And this guy actually, if you're wanting to do some co-op, this guy actually gives you a very important item that if you're anything like me, you missed your first time through the game. Now, if you go through that gate, you'll walk into a rather nasty ambush, as well as the gate will close behind you. So we're actually going to go the opposite direction and from behind and ambush the ambushes. It's one of my favorite things to do in this game. And with that, we have our first death of this playthrough. Now, like I said in the last video, I don't believe deaths count for using a bonfire. But with a no bonfire run, I think the occasional strategically placed death will be very useful, because death refills your Estus flasks and repairs your items. Which, unless you have repair powder, is something that'll be rather difficult. Oh, excuse me. I don't know why I stayed to fight these guys. There's no point to it. taking some unnecessary damage. A lot of unnecessary damage. Almost dying again, losing our 4,000 souls. Wasting our only Radiant Life gem. I'm good at Dark Souls, I promise. You'll probably hear that from me a lot. Swearing up and down I'm good at Dark Souls, but with no real evidence to back it up. Go ahead and head behind this tree. Interesting note about the trees in Dark Souls. From a lore perspective, you know, this is the force of the fallen giants. From a lore perspective, long ago there was a war with the giants, and it said that wherever a giant fell in battle, a tree would go in its place, or excuse me, a tree would grow in its place. So yeah, all these trees you see in that area, good shot. All these trees you see in this area are where giants fell in battle. So it really kind of gives you a scale of, you know, this war that took place years ago. All right, now what I like to do here, I like to take this this crossbow that we just picked up and go ahead and snipe these guys out, because as you'll see later, there's a bit of a tricky jump to get to a rather useless item that I always like to pick up. But if you fall down, you're stuck in a tight space with a couple bad guys, and it just kind of makes life a little unpleasant for a little bit. I'll head up here and knock out this cart. And backstab this guy. This guy out too. Now, as far as I remember, all that's actually in this area are a couple aromatic ooze. But I think you actually have to trigger that gate closing in order for Pate to give you the white slime soapstone. I'm not 100% sure, so if anybody can confirm that, that would be very helpful. Yeah, just a couple aromatic ooze. Nothing really worth dying over. Not to me, anyway. I don't think so. Although I suppose if you don't want to invest the points into faith and intelligence for buffs, aromatic ooze, could be very useful for that extra magic damage. Which I may wind up using it in this. I'll probably wind up using it in this playthrough, because I can't be a mage or a faith build, because that would require resting at a bonfire to attune our spells, and that's not something I can do for obvious reasons. All right, go ahead and head up up these stairs and out, and drop down, because as far as I know, there's no way to make that jump and almost die.
Well,
I wouldn't recommend that.
Be careful.
Alright, head back around, head back up that ladder, and deal with our would-be ambushers. Now, this is the jump I was talking about earlier. I actually managed to make this one in one try this time. I don't know how. But yeah, it's just the soul of an aimless soldier and a torch. Nothing really worth the effort. Get poked by that guy with the rapier. No, thank you. And here we have an infantry helm and something else that I don't remember. I think it should. The infantry helm is actually it's a pretty good starting helmet. Nothing to write home about, but it's not terrible. I hate long windups. I'm no good at dodging. Go ahead and pick up that generous one life gem. Thanks from. Yeah, I take a lot of unnecessary hits here. Mostly I'm using base adaptability at the moment, and I'm not terribly good at dodging with base adaptability. It's something I definitely need to practice and get better at. I have absolutely no idea what I was doing here. I was probably talking about something, not gonna lie. I'm sure it was very important. Go ahead and head over to the right here, and we've got our first crystal lizard, which are much more annoying in this game. They have a nasty habit of trying to kill themselves. I'm gonna up that guy in his nap. No wonder he was pissed. I'd be pissed too if somebody woke me up in the middle of a nap, especially with a sword. Fire. Excuse me, I started talking, interrupted by a yawn. Now, if you head up that ladder to the right, that just leads back to the Forest of the Fallen Giants bonfire. And if you head forward and go to the left, that leads out to that big area with the house and the archers that we saw earlier. Go ahead and head on down this lift to meet our first boss. Depending on which way you went, this will be your first boss anyway. Now what I like to do right here, I like to use the white sign soapstone to go ahead and get myself summoned a few times. It's really useful early game, you know, farm up a few souls, get a few extra levels, but it's not something I'll probably wind up doing a lot in this playthrough, or if at all. Giant. Now this guy is really interesting to me from a lore perspective. Good swing. This guy really interests me from a lore perspective. Simply because there's an enemy, there's a boss, fairly late game that you'll encounter, and you'll know. I hope that you'll know who he is when you see him. But I'll definitely refer back to this guy. That they're connected in a very interesting way, I think. And you know, right now it's, with a lot of Dark Souls lore, it's just a lot of speculation and fan theories. But I definitely think it holds water pretty well. Fairly easy boss fight, especially since I get greedy a couple times in this fight. Like right there, I got greedy trying to get that last hit, and I didn't have enough stamina to roll away. Almost paid for it. But fairly easy boss fight. Fairly simple moveset. He telegraphs all his attacks well in advance. And And for that, we get the Soldier's Key, as well as the Soul of the Last Giant. The Soul of the Last Giant, which I will wind up burning right here, because I have. There are a lot of interesting boss weapons in this game. None that interest me terribly, but I'll probably showcase them later in the game, just because somebody might be interested. But there's nothing that I would recommend using terribly, save for the Dragon Rider's bow. And you can see here, I completely forgot that this guy even existed. Use the Soldier's Key and head on to this chest right here. In this chest, there's a very, very useful early game ring. It's the Ring of Restoration, which gradually restores health. Not terribly useful late game, because you'll find a lot of rings that I'm sure you'll like more. But early game is a very useful ring with a very annoying aura. It gradually regenerates HP. And if you head out this way, it would appear at first that there's nothing here. But if you head over, I don't know what I'm doing. If you head over to the left, or right rather, you'll find this door here that most players will encounter late game. Produce the symbol of the king. Well, I don't have the symbol of the king, so we're gonna move on. But yeah, most players will go to that area later in the game. And in fact, we will return to it later in the game ourselves. Now, see, I don't know why I equipped the buckler here. I definitely should have equipped the blue shield. I don't remember the name of it at the moment, but I definitely should have equipped that, and you'll see what I'm talking about later. Because I don't know the parry timing for this shield at all, and I wind up paying for it. And here we pick up the halberd. I'm a big fan of the halberd class of weapons in Dark Souls 2. They were very good for PvE in Dark Souls 1. But unfortunately, they had that extra animation. If you missed an attack, you would stumble, and it would take a lot of extra time. And as you can see here, it's got a 20 strength and a 14 dexterity requirement. And what I would recommend doing, if you plan to use a weapon with a high strength requirement, I would definitely recommend getting its dexterity, at least its dexterity requirement, and half of its strength requirement. Because as opposed to Dark Souls 1, where the strength requirement was only reduced by, I believe it was a third. So say something had a 15 strength requirement and you two-handed it, the strength requirement went down to I want to say 10, if my god-awful math serves me. It would go down to 10. So, for instance, this is a 20 strength requirement. In Dark Souls 2, it would go down by half. It would go down to 10. And unfortunately, I only have 9 strength right now. So, but definitely get at least half the strength requirement and the dexterity requirement, because there are a lot of really good high-strength weapons in this game. Unfortunately, I do not have the strength to wield this, so I'm going to switch back at quite possibly the worst time I could have chosen to switch. Thankfully, that guy just decided to do a shield bash rather than his running attack. I got lucky. Again, I promise I'm good at Dark Souls. You'll probably hear that a lot from me, but I'll tell you I'm good at the game with absolutely no evidence to back it up. And head through this fog gate to meet quite possibly my favorite boss in the game. Pursuer. Now see, here is where I made my mistake. I don't know the parry timing of the buckler, as I said earlier. And right there's a very specific timing. You can actually parry him and turn what is about a 3.5-minute fight into about a 20-second fight, if even that. Very useful strat for speedrunners. Unfortunately, I don't know the buckler's timing, so I completely messed it up. Fairly standard melee fight. You know, these attacks are all fairly easy to dodge. More so if you have more than base adaptability, but even with base adaptability, he's not terribly difficult. Definitely watch out for that stab attack right there, because not only will it curse you, and with the amount of health I've got right now, it probably would have killed me. But it'll curse you, which if you're human, I know a lot of people have wondered, you know, what does cursing do in Dark Souls 2? In Dark Souls 2, it reduces your health very slightly. Basically, it reduces it about the amount if you had died. And you go from human to hollow if you're already human. Or, well, rather, if you're not already hollow. Yeah, you can see right there, I tried to roll through and it's just slightly off, and I paid for it. As well as getting greedy with that heal. Yeah, this guy is very interesting to me. He's the only boss in the game that he'll come to you. You don't have to come to him. He appears in two very specific areas. One being the area right after the shortcut by the bonfire that I showed you. The other being a little bit later in the game, after my least favorite boss in the game. I'm going to use up all my life gems for this fight. I just realized how bad my dodge timing is for some of these. Rolling through his attacks after they've passed me. Kind of a waste of stamina. But with that, he's down. Fairly straightforward boss fight, and with that we get the Soul of the Pursuer as well as the Ring of Blades. The Ring of Blades is quite possibly one of... I keep saying quite possibly. The Ring of Blades is probably one of my favorite rings in the game. It increases your physical attack damage, which can be very useful with high physical attack weapons. Or low physical attack. It's useful for everything, pretty much. Now, if you examine that bird's nest back there, it'll take you to an area that we'll go to later in the game. But it's not actually an area that I want to visit right now, because it'll require the use of a homeward bone or a bonfire to teleport back out with, and I don't think I have any homeward bones, and for obvious reasons I can't use a bonfire to warp out. But we'll go ahead and pick up this item set right here, and it's the Drang set. Very good early game armor, very good armor all around. I've seen a lot of people using it through their whole playthrough, as well as the Drang sword, which is it's a quality greatsword that leans more towards dexterity for its scaling. It's got a C scaling in strength and a B scaling in dexterity, with a fairly low stat requirement, if I remember correctly, as well as a very interesting moveset. And there you go, the Drang sword. Fairly cool looking greatsword. Again, two-handed R1s have that weird downward strike. The two-handed R2s have that horizontal slash. Very useful against groups of enemies. One-handed R1s. And one-handed R2. Very, very useful, that one-handed R2. And the Drang set. not a set that I'll be making much use of, but it's something I know a lot of people like. And I apologize for how stuttery my how much my right stick stutters. All right, but with that, it looks like we're out of time. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll